In this video, I want to show you the most common questions that are asked in bouncer or door supervisor interviews and help you plan the right answers that will help you get hired. So let's start with a really common question that's asked very often, which is, why do you want to work as a bouncer or a door supervisor? And they want to have a good reason why you actually want to do this job. And if you can't explain why you want the job, it's going to make it much harder to get the job. So I'm going to suggest various things that you can say, and I would write down or remember some of the ones on my list here that actually sound like reasons why you want to be a bouncer that match with you, and then you can put an answer together. So some things you might say is that it is a perfect match for your skills, and explain why you've got the right skills, link that to your previous experience, and that could be part of the reason why you want this job. You could say that you've got lots of previous security experience. You might want to talk about your certifications if you have various licenses that qualify you to do this job, or you have done training in the past in security or in being a door supervisor. Definitely bring that in. If you've got great communication skills and you're really good at diffusing situations and talking to the general public, definitely say that. If you enjoy working in a team, that's a good thing to say. You like to have an active job. You love to meet new people. These are other things you can bring to your interview. That you like to work at night. That's the time where you're probably going to be scheduled to work. So say that's a time that you actually want to work. That you like keeping people safe, and that you see your job as helping people to have a great night. So I would choose as many of these as match your interests, take those to the interview, and explain that's the reason why you want this job. Let's look at the next question. What would you do if you've seen a bouncer use excessive force on a patron? So they want to get an idea that you understand the legal rights that bouncers have and how much power you really do have. Some people think that bouncers can do whatever they like, that they can pick people up and start throwing them out. That's not really true. There is reasonable force, and in many countries, bouncers don't actually have any more legal powers than the average person. Depends on your particular location to know what the actual laws are. So be aware of what the laws are in the place that you're applying to. So in general, this is what you would say in your interview. So you explain that a bouncer can only legally use reasonable force. So, for example, if someone is causing serious harm or damage to property, it's likely you will be able to restrain them. It's not fair for you to, of course, pick up a weapon and stab them. That would be completely unreasonable. So there is a reasonableness test that is applied, and bouncers can only use reasonable force. So you have to be clear about that. The next thing you say is you may give an example. Say, for example, a bouncer may restrain if strictly necessary, but not throw someone. So that you would see as an excessive use of force. You would say, I would seek to diffuse the situation, maintain order, and prevent harm. That's a basic way of saying you would intervene if excessive force was being used on a patron, even if it was by another bouncer. That your job is to diffuse the situation, maintain order, and prevent harm. That's the phrase that you can use in your interview. The next thing you would say is, I would report the incident to management, where someone has completely went over the line and used excessive force. That's not acceptable, and you would report that to management, because that's going to cause harm to the venue and may cause a legal action to be taken against the company, and management therefore need to be informed of that. So basically explain what a bouncer can and can't do, maybe give an example, say that you would diffuse the situation, maintain order, prevent harm to anybody that you're responsible for, and that you would report that incident to management. And that is the right answer to the question. The next one you could be asked is, what would you do if an aggressive, intoxicated customer refused to leave? And there is a wrong answer to this, which is to let them stay there. Just because someone says, no, I'm not leaving, doesn't give them the right to stay in a venue. They may be causing lots of trouble. They may be dangerous. They may be aggressive. They may have some sort of problem that is going to ruin other people's time there. So you cannot let someone stay after you've asked them to leave. So you've got to be clear about that. So the first thing you say is the customer has been asked to leave, so they will leave. That's what you've got to say. The next thing you say is you'll remain calm, composed, and persistent. That you're not going to give up and let a person who has been asked to leave for a good reason and let them remain on the venue. So if they've done something outrageous or dangerous or harmed someone else, they can't stay in the venue, because it's more likely that it will happen again. and it's just not acceptable to be asked to leave and say no. It completely undermines your authority completely and gives them a license to behave however they want. So it's essential that you say that they will leave. Then what you say is you would escort the customer out. Keep it very general. Just say you would escort them out, like they're going to leave magically, but you're keeping it as general as possible, just saying that you would escort them out, that they are leaving, and be clear on that. And that's how you pass this question. The next thing you may be asked is something around ID. You've got to know what the laws are. You've got to know what ages and what ID is acceptable. These are just things that are important to your job. So the question might be, what would you do if a customer presented a fake ID? And you want to keep this general because different places will have slightly different ways of dealing with it, but in general, there's a basic answer. The first thing is you would say that you would keep an eye out for this, that you actually look properly at identification. What someone might do is try and flash some ID up in your face and put it away really quickly. So you couldn't even really look at it. You just see that they've put a card in your face and then it's gone. That's not how you check ID. So you say in your interview that you check ID properly. You actually look at it. If someone flashes ID and then puts it away, you ask them to get it out again and say you've not had the chance to actually look at it. Can I see it a bit more? And so you can actually read it and verify that it is a genuine ID. So the first thing you say is that you actually check that all ID is genuine, because that's the right thing to do. The next thing you would say is you would refuse entry. If someone has presented fake ID and you are not sure that they are of legal drinking age, you cannot allow them into the venue. You've got to be very clear about that. And then the next thing you do to keep it general is you say you would follow the company policy. So you don't just make up what happens next. It may be that if someone presents a fake ID at the door, they are barred and they are never allowed entry into that venue ever again. That might be the policy. You don't want to make up your own one. Just say you would follow the company's policy as to what happens next, which may include barring them or may include some other sanction that you would have been trained to hand out. So that's how you answer that question. Before we finish, here are some great questions that you could ask at the end of your bouncer interview. At the end of the interview, they may say, do you have any questions for us? And I'm going to suggest some questions you could ask. So pick some of these and some questions that you should never ask. So one question you could say is, could you tell me about the next steps in your recruitment process? Find out when you're going to hear whether you've got the job. You might say, can you tell me more about the team that you have on the door here? And find out where you fit within the structure, who's in charge, who could you be working with, how many people are working there. You might say, what do you look for in a great bouncer? And when they say the characteristics that they're looking for, you can try and match yourself to what they want. You might say, what is your favorite thing about working at this bar or club? And sharing their enthusiasm for what they really like. And you might want to consider making one up on the day. So if they're saying something interesting in the interview and you wonder about it, or when they're telling you about the company, there's something you think, I want to ask about that, then just make up that question. But there's some things you shouldn't ask about. So don't try and negotiate a higher salary. They haven't even decided if they want to hire you and you're already demanding more money. Moving to another club or bar, that's not a good idea. Even if it's part of the same company, they're trying to hire for one venue, not another venue. So stick with the one you've actually applied to. Don't ask about holidays. Don't ask about delaying start date. They may need someone basically immediately. So if you're saying you can't start for 3 weeks, they might just go for someone else because they can, or asking about time off. So I hope this video has been helpful to you and you feel more prepared for your bouncer or door supervisor interview. I'd appreciate if you could post in the comments what questions you were asked at interview. And finally, thank you very much for watching this video.